Hey guys. So a while back I made a video on an anime called Armitage the Third Polymatrix. I titled that video The Most Confusing Anime, but shortly after it was uploaded, one of you guys mentioned in the comments that you found the film Galaxy Express 999 to be even more confusing. And that got me thinking, can it really be that there exists an anime out there that's even more baffling than Armitage the Third? It didn't seem possible, but out of curiosity, I decided to give Galaxy Express 999 a watch, and well, let's just say that there's plenty here to break your brain, especially if you care about silly little things like logic and common sense. So if you'll join me, I'd like to take you on a journey through the strange, nonsensical world of Galaxy Express 999. And buckle in because this is going to be a weird one. Oh, and there are definitely spoilers ahead, so fair warning. So our film opens on Earth at some point in the distant future. The exact year is never specified, but to the film's credit, it manages to pretty quickly and effectively establish the state of Earth's society. The movie's opening features a vast, glittering metropolis, but the camera quickly pans down, both literally and figuratively sinking lower and lower, bringing us face to face with the underclasses. Pretty much immediately, we're introduced to our protagonist, a young ragamuffin named Joey. And right off the bat, things are pretty weird because apparently Joey's name in the original Japanese was Tetsuro Hoshino, but for some reason the filmmakers changed it in the English version to Joey Hana Kana Boba Commanda Smith, because I guess just calling him Joey Smith wouldn't be ridiculous enough. Anyway, returning to the film, we next see a pair of bougie cyborgs attempting to purchase a train ticket for the titular Galaxy Express 999. But just as the ticket begins printing, Joey and his band of street urchin friends jump in to steal it. While the boys play keep away with the train ticket, the station security bots give chase, and during the commotion we see pretty much the world's ugliest locket fly off of Joey. He attempts to retrieve it, but just as he's doing so, a tall, mysterious woman appears in front of him to scoop the locket up. This is Joey's reaction. Okay, so obviously this woman resembles his mom in some way. So why does he look so interested in her? I'm getting some serious Oedipus vibes here. But let's put a pin in that for now. Before Joey's able to retrieve his locket, the station security bots close in on him, so he's forced to flee and abandon it. The security bots chase him out of the train station, where we get one of the film's first truly confusing sequences. First, we see Joey fleeing the station on foot. Once he's outside, one of his friends calls out to him and tosses him the coveted train ticket. We then cut immediately to Joey escaping on some kind of rocket-powered skateboard. Where did he get it? Where did it even come from? Never explained. He's just on foot one moment and on a magically appearing rocket skateboard the next. A fairly long and uninteresting chase scene follows, and I call it uninteresting because we still don't really know anything about this world or the characters who inhabit it, so the audience isn't really aware of the stakes involved here. We don't know what Joey has to gain or lose by holding onto the train ticket to the Galaxy Express, and we're not sure what the consequences will be if he's caught by his pursuers. Basically, it's too early in the film for us to be invested in any of the characters or their plight, so the whole chase scene just falls pretty flat. Anyway, the whole thing culminates in Joey once again spotting the same woman he ran into at the train station. What's she doing here? How did she manage to get here in time to head off Joey and the security bots? I guess those are stupid questions. Joey, now completely exhausted from the chase scene, demands that the woman give him his locket back. Because apparently it's okay for Joey to run around stealing things, but heaven forbid somebody takes something of his. Anyway, his exhaustion eventually gets the better of him, and Joey collapses into the mysterious woman's arms. She drags him off to safety, and next thing we know, Joey is sleeping peacefully somewhere. We're never told where this place actually is. It could be the woman's home, or it could be a hotel, who knows. The point is, while Joey is asleep, his hostess uses some kind of science fiction magic device to peer into his dreams. And as it turns out, Joey is dreaming about the last time he saw his mother alive. Apparently the two were out walking through a blizzard one day for reasons, I'm sure, when a man by the name of Count Mecha shows up to do a little good old-fashioned human hunting. Count Mecha shot and killed Joey's mother, leaving Chibi Joey behind to swear vengeance on his mother's murderer. Cut back to the present, where Joey wakes up to find the mysterious woman gone. Unsure where he is, he wanders around until he begins hearing voices somewhere close by. The film makes it pretty clear that he can't understand what the voices are saying, but the audience can clearly make out a man's voice ordering Joey's hostess to remain close to Joey's side no matter what. But whatever, I'm sure that's not important in the least, and it's definitely not going to come up again later. What is important is that our protagonist follows the voices until he accidentally comes upon his hostess naked in the shower. Once more, he mentions that she looks just like his mother, and there's a weird amount of sexual tension here considering the fact that one of these characters is a literal child, and the other apparently looks just like his mom. Anyway, once she's done in the shower, Joey's hostess introduces herself as Maytel. She gently scolds him for stealing the train ticket, but Joey tells her that he needs it in order to gain access to Galaxy Express 999. His ultimate goal, he explains, is to head to Andromeda, where he can apparently get a machine body, which he believes that he needs in order to kill Count Mecha. However, unfortunately for him, he lost the train ticket during his flight from the train station's security bots. Maytel then gives him his locket back and offers to also give him a new train ticket. She explains that she also needs to go to Andromeda, and so her only condition is that Joey take her along with him on his journey. Joey, stupidly assuming that she needs his protection, agrees to the bargain. Just as the deal is settled, however, the security bots from the station start cutting their way into the apartment or hotel room or wherever we are. Maytel tosses a flash grenade at them, and cut to an unspecified amount of time later, where we find Joey and Maytel back at the train station once again. So I guess we're left to assume that they escaped the security bots safely off screen. We're now 15 minutes into our hour-and-a-half long movie, and finally our protagonists are boarding the Galaxy Express. A fairly lengthy sequence ensues as the train begins taking off, and credit where credit is due. The animation in this film is definitely dated, but it still looks quite good. The whole sequence with the train departing is actually really well done, with a decent amount of emotional weight to it. There's a sense of mystery and excitement surrounding the beginning of a new journey, as well as a more melancholic undertone as Joey reflects on the dark task ahead of him. Once the Galaxy Express is moving, the train's conductor announces that the first stop along the journey is on Titan, or the largest moon of Saturn for those of you who are not astronomy nerds. Both the conductor and Maytel explain to Joey that there are several such stops along the way to Andromeda. Passengers are allowed to disembark at every stop, but if they fail to return to the train by the time of its next departure, they'll be killed. Why will they be killed? Who exactly is enforcing this rule? Never explained. Shortly afterward, we see the train setting down at Titan Station, or Titan Station, I guess. Joey and Maytel disembark, but are immediately attacked by some locals. And once again, things get kind of confusing here. Maytel is dragged off by a couple of men, presumably after being shot. Joey attempts to give chase, but he's then also shot. Cut immediately to sometime later, where we see Joey waking up in an old lady's house. He seems perfectly fine, so what exactly happened to him at the train station? Was he not shot? If not, what exactly happened to him and Maytel? Again, these are apparently stupid questions. The old lady who rescued Joey tells him that Maytel has been kidnapped by a group of bandits. When Joey announces that he's going after her, the old lady gives him some clothes, a gun, and tells him that he can use her boat to pursue the bandits. So why exactly is this old lady going so far out of her way for Joey? It's never explained, so I guess she can just sense that he's the main character. Anyway, Joey takes off after the bandits and pretty much immediately finds them. There's another kind of confusing part here where he opens fire in the direction of the bandit leader, but it turns out to be one of those fake outs where he's actually shooting at someone behind the bandit. And I have some questions. First of all, how did Joey know that that cyborg was standing there? Second of all, why would he shoot him? I mean, a few seconds ago we did see the cyborg trying to kidnap a little kid with a drone, but the blocking makes it pretty clear that Joey didn't see him. And third of all, why wouldn't Joey just shoot the bandit leader instead, since he's the one responsible for Maytel's abduction? None of these questions are ever addressed. Anyway, since Joey apparently saved the bandit leader's life, the man tells his goons to spare him, and the group drag Joey back to their hideout. Once there, they use, I guess, an X-ray machine in order to test whether or not Joey is a cyborg, claiming they'll kill him if he is one. They also drag Maytel out from wherever they've been keeping her and give her the same test. And presumably this is why the bandits captured Maytel in the first place, to determine whether or not she's what they call a machine person. But I'm not sure exactly what the logic is here. When the bandits first attacked Joey and Maytel at the station, they began their assault by killing a random guy right in front of the station entrance. So was he a machine person? How could they tell? And come to think of it, why is it that Maytel was the only person that the bandits captured? They managed to incapacitate Joey too, so why didn't they abduct him along with her? And why didn't they bother killing or capturing anyone else at the station? Well, whatever. As it turns out, both Joey and Maytel passed the cyborg test, so the bandit leader, whose name is Olaf by the way, agrees to spare them both. We then get this exchange.
Sorry, no hard feelings, alright?
Just to be fair, I'll show you my framework too.
What are those?
I've been shot so many times in space battles and fights. Those things you see are all energy bullet duds.
But you mean they might explode someday?
If that happened, I'd be blown into atoms.
Okay, so apparently this guy has a belly full of explosives that could go off at any moment. But I'm sure this won't come up again later. Anyway, once he's determined that neither Joey nor Maytel is a machine person, Olaf invites them deeper into his hideout, which proves to be full of children. Olaf explains that they're all orphans whose parents were killed by Count Mecha. So I guess Olaf's whole deal is that he rescues these kids from the machine people. But that just makes the bandits' actions at the train station make even less sense. I mean, I guess you could infer that Olaf's men mistook Maytel for a cyborg and wanted to rescue Joey from her clutches. But then why attack Joey? Why not take him back to their hideout with all the other kids? Well, I guess none of that is important. Olaf and our protagonists discuss Count Mecha's whereabouts, and Joey mentions that the Count lives in a time castle, whatever that is. And it's never explained how Joey knows this. Olaf tells Joey that no one in the universe knows where Count Mecha's time castle is, except a pirate queen named Emeralda. After a little more back and forth, we then cut to the Galaxy Express taking off with Joey and Maytel inside. So I guess we're to assume that the bandits released them off screen. Anyway, pretty much immediately the conductor announces the next stop, which is Pluto. Maytel explains to Joey that people refer to it as the Lost Planet because of its distance from Earth. So I guess it's good to know that in the future, Pluto will be upgraded to planet status once again. Maytel also mentions that people say it's the frozen spirits of the dead that make Pluto so cold. And here I've been foolishly assuming that it's the vast distance from the sun that does it. Once the Galaxy Express makes its next stop, Maytel announces that she has some business to take care of, and she and Joey separate, agreeing to meet up again later on the train. We then cut to Joey somewhere, an unspecified amount of time later, where he stumbles upon Maytel. So apparently, out of anywhere they could have gone on this entire planet, both characters ended up in exactly the same place. That's quite the coincidence. Or I guess maybe we're meant to assume that Joey followed her here? I don't know. Anyway, Joey finds himself standing on a huge ice sheet full of frozen bodies. He's then approached by a woman who introduces herself as Shadow and who offers this explanation.
These are the bodies of people who took machine bodies. Some were dying of sickness, others simply wanted to live forever without pain. And here is where the empty bodies sleep.
Empty bodies left behind?
Shadow then offers to show Joey her original body and pretty much drags him against his will over to her own grave. She tells him that she too received a machine body, but that after she made the transition, she missed her original body so much that she returned to Pluto and became the keeper of the ice graves. At this point, Joey starts panicking and struggling to break free of her grasp, but Shadow clings to him and tells him that she wants him to stay close to her grave forever. I think the implication is supposed to be that she wants Joey around because he's still fully human, but it's never explained. Joey just starts panicking, and she suddenly starts going crazy and demanding that he stay with her forever. And this just begs the question, is Joey a special case, or does Shadow pull this stunt every time a human comes to visit the ice graves? Well, I guess it doesn't matter, because all of a sudden Maytel shows up and starts scolding Shadow for her behavior.
Shadow, you wanted a machine body, and you asked for what you have now. It's not right for you to use other people just because you feel lonely here. Leave him alone. You don't have the courage to take back your real body. Eternal life or limited life, you can't even make the choice.
No, please, don't say any more
more, Maytel.
And that's pretty much it for Pluto. Joey and Maytel depart while Shadow retreats to her coffin, sobbing over her own inability to choose between life as a human and life as a machine. We then cut to the Galaxy Express, where Maytel explains to Joey that those who have chosen machine bodies may one day return to Pluto to claim their old flesh and blood vessels. But I'm sure this won't come up again later. While Joey mulls over everything that just happened, Maytel ends up falling asleep. And remember how at the beginning of the film Maytel used that science fiction magic device to peer into Joey's dreams? Well, I didn't mention this before, but back before the two of them first boarded the Galaxy Express, Maytel told Joey about the device and admitted to snooping into his dreams. Afterward, she gave the device to Joey, who apparently held onto it this whole time. Now, curious about what Maytel was looking at back at the ice graves, he produces the device and almost uses it on her. But before he can, he has a crisis of conscience and decides that he doesn't want to pry into his new friend's past. He destroys the device just as Maytel starts waking up, and although he tries to hide it, she catches a glimpse of the broken object and smiles, presumably guessing at what just happened. And the reason I'm going into so much detail here about such a small little scene is that the framing of this whole situation is just so inconsistent. At the beginning of the film, Maytel had no problem snooping into Joey's past. She didn't seem to find anything morally wrong with it, and even when Joey found out what she'd done, he didn't seem angry or upset at all. But now, suddenly, both characters are acting like Joey has just achieved some sort of moral victory by refusing to pry into Maytel's past. So, which is it? Is it perfectly fine to use the device, as the beginning of the movie implies, or is it some kind of breach of confidence? And if there is some kind of problem with it, why did Maytel give the device to Joey in the first place? Why can't even a small, simple scene like this make any sense? Well, whatever. As the train continues its journey through the stars, suddenly it's approached by an enormous pirate ship. The captain of the ship hails the Galaxy Express and orders it to slow down, identifying herself as Emeralda. And remember how back on Titan, Olaf mentioned to Joey that the only person in the universe who knows the whereabouts of Count Mecha's time castle is the pirate Emeralda? Well, apparently it's Joey's lucky day, because the very same pirate queen just so happens to coincidentally be attacking the Galaxy Express. Joey, desperate to get Emeralda's attention, stupidly opens fire on her ship. And I say stupidly because he's single-handedly assaulting a pirate ship, but more importantly, he fires straight through one of the Galaxy Express's windows. So I guess he's extremely fortunate that things like decompression don't matter in this universe, otherwise the cold vacuum of space would be killing everyone aboard. But fortunately, Joey's foolhardy plan succeeds in catching Emeralda's eye. She boards the Galaxy Express, demanding to know who fired on her ship. And honestly, this whole sequence is actually quite well done. There's a decent amount of tension and build-up to Emeralda's arrival, and she cuts a genuinely threatening figure when she finally appears. I also quite like Emeralda's character design. From the scar on her face, to the long black cloak, to her gun that's fashioned to resemble a dueling sword, her overall appearance really tells a story. Anyway, getting back to the plot, Joey reveals himself as the one who opened fire on Emeralda's ship. The pirate queen nearly plugs him full of space lasers for doing so, but stops herself when she suddenly recognizes Joey's gun. The movie makes it pretty clear that Emeralda has some sort of past with the gun's former owner, but this is literally never explained. She just recognizes the firearm and chooses to spare Joey's life because of it. It's also pretty clear that Emeralda and Maytel know each other because Emeralda recognizes Maytel as soon as she sees her, but once again, their past is never explained. Cut to some time later, and we see Joey asking Emeralda about Count Mecha's time castle. Emeralda admits to knowing where the castle is, but tells Joey that Count Mecha isn't there. Instead, he's currently at a place called Hangman's Hollow. When Joey asks where that is, the Galaxy Express's conductor tells him that Hangman's Hollow is the train's next stop. Well, how very, very convenient. And with that, Emeralda just leaves. Which begs the question, why did she attack the Galaxy Express in the first place? She must have had some sort of purpose for doing so, but this is yet one more thing that the movie never bothers to explain. Emeralda just conveniently shows up to tell Joey where Count Mecha can be found, and then immediately hightails it out of the movie. Cut to Hangman's Hollow, where Joey and Maytel agree to split up so that Joey can look for Count Mecha. During their discussion, you can see a wanted poster in the background listing a reward for the capture of an individual named Warlock. This will come up later, but let's just put a pin in it for now. Joey does some searching, and his efforts bring him to a dingy saloon. There's quite a bit of focus placed on a woman inside the saloon singing and playing a guitar, but I'm sure she's not going to end up being significant to the plot at all. Joey asks the bartender where he can find Count Mecha, and the man directs him to a place called Buzzard Peak, claiming that he'll find someone there who knows all about Count Mecha. Joey follows the man's directions and does indeed end up finding an individual named McMoon living on the outskirts of town. And remember that old lady on Titan who gave Joey his hat, cloak, and gun? Well, as it turns out, this is her son. And since he used to be the owner of Joey's gun, that also makes this guy the one that Esmeralda apparently has feelings for. What's the significance of any of this? Well, nothing, of course. McMoon's connections to these other characters has no bearing at all on the plot. He just so happens to be conveniently tied to like half of this movie's cast for no real reason. Anyway, McMoon invites Joey into his home, which I think is supposed to be a broken down spaceship, and reveals that Count Mecha used to be a good person. A warm-hearted human being, as he puts it. But apparently after getting a machine body, Count Mecha lost his humanity and became a vicious murderer. McMoon then reveals that he's been following Count Mecha for years, attempting to find and kill him, but that he contracted some sort of space virus or something along the way and is now dying. We then get one of the most confusing scenes in the film as McMoon climbs into some kind of chamber in his derelict spaceship and asks Joey to pull a nearby lever. When Joey does so, McMoon is engulfed in a strange space light, I guess? Then, with pretty much perfect comedic timing, we cut to Joey standing over McMoon's grave. I think the idea is that the space light is supposed to be some kind of experimental cure for McMoon's illness, but this is never explicitly stated. Dejected, Joey heads back for town, but along the way he runs across some of Count Mecha's goons. The machine men beat the living tar out of Joey and steal his gun. But not one to be taken out so easily, Joey follows the men back to the saloon and demands that they return his firearm. Predictably enough, the goons start warming up for a second round of fisticuffs, but a mysterious figure shows up and comes to Joey's aid. And it turns out to be Captain Warlock, according to Joey anyway. So who exactly is Captain Warlock? How does Joey know of him? Say it with me, never explained. But remember a few minutes ago when I mentioned that wanted poster listing a reward for a certain Captain Herlock? Well, I'm pretty sure that this is the same guy. It's kind of confusing because the poster called him Herlock, but everyone in the film refers to him as Captain Warlock. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that both names are wrong because I'm fairly certain that this guy is actually the protagonist of the anime Captain Harlock. Confused yet? Anyway, Captain Harlock, or Warlock, or whatever his name is, makes short work of Count Mecha's goons. He and Joey then head out together, and this exchange ensues.
Say, why did you help me back there? Anyway.
Because you buried my best friend, that's why.
So apparently McMoon was this guy's best friend. And I'm not sure how he knows that Joey buried McMoon, but we're getting pretty close to the end of the movie here, so I also don't really care. Cut to an unspecified amount of time later, and we see Joey approaching Count Mecha's time castle. And again, things get pretty baffling. First of all, how did Joey know where to find the time castle? Neither McMoon nor Captain Harlock mentioned anything about the castle's whereabouts. And come to think of it, didn't Esmeralda specifically tell Joey that Count Mecha wasn't at his time castle in the first place? Wasn't that the whole reason why Joey came to Hangman's Hollow looking for him? Well, whatever. Joey makes his way inside, where he finds his mother's body mounted on the wall like a trophy. And I won't lie, it's a pretty effectively grim little scene. But Joey's mourning is interrupted by the arrival of Count Mecha himself. So now we get the fateful confrontation between Count Mecha and our child protagonist. And unfortunately, things immediately go south as the Count manages to shoot the gun right out of Joey's hand, and one of his underlings approaches to finish the job. So nice going, Joey. But as it turns out, the goon in the robe is actually Olaf. Remember Olaf? The bandit leader from Titan? Well, it turns out that he somehow got to Count Mecha before Joey did and managed to infiltrate the time castle right under Count Mecha's nose. And this just raises so many questions. Like, how did Olaf manage to beat the Galaxy Express to Hangman's Hollow? And how did he know to come to Hangman's Hollow in the first place? Didn't he specifically mention back on Titan that Esmeralda was the only person in the universe who knew where to find Count Mecha? And since he apparently managed to infiltrate the time castle so quickly, why didn't Olaf just kill Count Mecha himself? I mean, based on Joey's pathetic performance and Olaf's ability to hold his own against Count Mecha's men, the bandit probably could have found a way to take Count Mecha out without waiting for Joey to bumble in. Well, anyway, Olaf manages to single-handedly take out all of Count Mecha's underlings. Oh, and remember that lady from the saloon who was singing and playing the guitar? Well, she's also here, and Count Mecha flees the scene, dragging her along with him. Joey gives chase and manages to corner the pair in what I think is supposed to be the time castle's core. There's some back and forth here, where Joey shoots off one of Count Mecha's arms, prompting the Machine Man to pull the old Raditz trick, falling to his knees and begging for mercy. When Joey foolishly lowers his gun, the Count opens fire, but once again Olaf proves why he should probably be the protagonist of this film by heroically shoving Joey to the side and taking a space laser to the chest. Count Mecha and his girlfriend manage to retreat behind some kind of barrier, but remember how back on Titan Olaf mentioned that he had a belly full of explosives that could go off at any time? Well, conveniently enough, those explosives choose this exact moment to detonate, killing Olaf and taking out the barrier protecting Count Mecha and his girlfriend. Just before he dies, Olaf warns Joey to be careful of Maytel. But I'm sure this won't come up again later. With the barrier now obliterated, Joey lunges forward and opens fire on Count Mecha, hitting him in the head and killing him instantly. His girlfriend then warns Joey to flee the castle since it's apparently about to collapse in on itself. When Joey asks her why she's helping him, the woman tells him that his battle with Count Mecha reminded her of her own past, back when she still had a human body. She explains that long ago she took a machine body, but that in doing so she lost her humanity. She also mentions something about being a witch that can control time, but never really elaborates on what that means. Joey then flees the castle as it starts rusting and crumbling away all around him. And this is actually a pretty cool little sequence. There's a real sense of tension as Joey attempts to escape, as well as an air of melancholy as Count Mecha's girlfriend chooses to remain at her dead lover's side. The animation depicting the encroaching rust is also pretty neat. So now Count Mecha has been killed and Joey has gotten his revenge for the death of his mother. So the movie's pretty much over at this point, right? Well, no. We've actually still got about another half hour to go. Once the time castle has been destroyed, Joey finds Maytel and Captain Warlock or Herlock or whoever waiting for him at the edge of the castle ruins. Joey announces to them that he's not quite finished with his journey because now he wants to ban all machine bodies from the universe forever. This is quite a shift in motivation because if you'll recall, Joey's original purpose in boarding the Galaxy Express was to get a machine body for himself. And honestly, this change actually does make quite a bit of sense. When Joey initially set out on his quest, he considered himself too weak to oppose Count Mecha with his flesh and blood body. He saw the possession of a machine body as a strength necessary to achieve his goal. But over the course of his journey on the Galaxy Express, his viewpoint has broadened. On Titan, he learned that he was only one of many children orphaned by Count Mecha's evil human hunts. On Pluto, he saw the misery that Shadow's machine body caused for her. He learned from McMoon that Count Mecha actually used to be a warm-hearted person before obtaining his machine body, and after the Count's death, Joey saw how unhappy Count Mecha's girlfriend became after leaving her flesh and blood body behind. All of these experiences culminate in Joey realizing that living forever as a machine doesn't equate to happiness. On the contrary, taking a machine body only seems to cause devastation for all involved. I've heard Galaxy Express 999 described as a film about class warfare. And to a certain extent, I think that's true. There definitely is palpable tension between the bougie upper-class cyborgs and the lower-class humans. In fact, I think you could say that the cyborgs in this film are a kind of metaphor for the bourgeoisie, to use Marxist language. But in my view, the film's central theme is actually humanity, and more specifically, the relationship between mankind and technology. Galaxy Express 999 can be read as a kind of cautionary tale outlining the risks of an over-reliance on technology and warning against a blind march toward perceived progress. It's a story that calls the viewer to consider the ways in which an over-dependence on technology could very well cause a loss of humanity in the individual as well as the species as a whole. But enough of my pseudo-intellectualism. Getting back to the plot, Joey and Maytel board the Galaxy Express once more. Once inside, Joey observes that Maytel seems to be growing more and more depressed the closer they draw to Andromeda. Maytel claims that it's just Joey's imagination, which prompts him to remember Olaf's dying words about being careful of her. Cut to a little while later, and the train's conductor announces the final stop of the journey, which is apparently a planet called Maytel. Kind of a suspicious coincidence, but Joey is fast asleep at this point and doesn't hear the announcement. The train eventually sets down on a planet that's fully mechanized, kind of like Cybertron from Transformers. When Joey and Maytel disembark, they're met by a group of security bots who address Joey's companion as Princess Maytel. When Joey demands to know what's going on, one of the security bots tells him that all of the machinery on the planet is somehow made from the bodies of human beings. The security bot also explains that since Joey killed Count Mecha, he must be punished by becoming a part of the planet. And how does the security bot know that Joey killed Count Mecha? Well, apparently Maytel has been reporting everything that's happened along the journey back to the planet Maytel, and has essentially been grooming Joey to become part of the planet ever since first meeting him on Earth. Joey responds to this news by hauling off and slapping Maytel across the face.
You tricked me! You tricked me! You tricked me! You tricked me!
The security bots obviously don't take too kindly to this little display, and they drag Joey off somewhere to present him to the planet's ruler, Queen Promethea. The Queen, who has a pretty cool character design, tells Joey that she's planning to turn him into a bolt. Joey gets dragged off to a machine, which I guess is going to somehow execute the transformation. Before the machine can be activated, though, Maytel shows up, and Queen Promethea reveals that Maytel is her daughter. This is treated like some kind of huge plot twist, but both Joey and the audience have already heard Maytel greeted as a princess, and we know that Promethea is the queen of the planet, so the reveal is pretty predictable. Joey apparently couldn't put two and two together though, and acts all shocked, deciding that Maytel is a cyborg and calling her a monster, lamenting the fact that he fell in love with her. Yes, that's right, Joey apparently fell in love with the woman who looks identical to his own mother. A disembodied voice then addresses Joey, telling him that Maytel also loves him. It's all pretty weird and creepy, and gets even weirder and creepier down the line. Anyway, remember way at the beginning of the movie when Joey first met Maytel and we heard that voice telling her to remain at Joey's side no matter what? Well, it turns out that that voice belonged to Maytel's father, whose spirit is somehow contained in a pendant that she's been wearing this whole time. Upon hearing his voice, Queen Promethea for some reason starts freaking out, accusing Maytel of trying to create an anti-mechanized universe. That's quite the conclusion to leap to, but apparently the Queen is correct, and that's exactly what Maytel has been up to this whole time. Long story short, there's some kind of bomb inside the pendant along with Maytel's father's soul. Maytel plans to throw the pendant into the planet's core, detonating the bomb and destroying the planet. Joey is freed, I guess by Maytel's father, and holds Queen Promethea at gunpoint while Maytel rushes to complete her mission. But just at the last second, she loses her nerve, telling herself that Planet Maytel is half of her own heart. So it's up to Joey to save the day by snatching the pendant out of her hand and hurling it into the planet's core. The bomb detonates and the planet immediately begins falling to pieces while Joey and Maytel rush to escape. During their flight, Joey touches Maytel's hands a number of times and at one point remarks that she feels warm and that he can't believe she's a machine. Maytel responds by revealing to him that she's actually inhabiting his mother's body. When Joey tells Maytel that he saw his mother's body mounted on a wall in Count Mecha's castle, she explains to him that that was only a replica. So just to be clear, not only does Maytel look like Joey's mother, but she is, biologically, his mom. Good to know these two characters are in love. Also, why exactly is Maytel inhabiting Joey's mom's body? Everyone and everything else on planet Maytel is some kind of machine or android, so why is Maytel, the planet's princess, the only organic creature? Never explained. Anyway, while all this is happening, Emeralda and Captain Harlock, or Warlock, or whatever his name is, just show up out of nowhere and start assaulting the planet. There's a huge drawn-out action sequence that culminates in Queen Promethea's death, and planet Maytel being destroyed. Joey and Maytel, the person, not the planet, manage to make it back to the Galaxy Express just in time for the train to take off, and that's basically the end of the movie. Cut to some time later, back on Earth. Maytel is preparing to leave on the Galaxy Express once more, claiming that she plans to return to Pluto in order to reclaim her original body. So yeah, I guess that's what she was looking at back at the ice graves. The two characters say a sad farewell, and just to make things as weird as possible, Maytel smooches our child protagonist right on the lips. And remember, she's still in the body of Joey's biological mother while doing so, because an anime just wouldn't be an anime without some sort of incestuous romance. The Galaxy Express takes off with Maytel aboard, and the film ends with Joey running alongside the tracks, calling after his creepy love interest. And roll credits. So, final thoughts on the film. Well, to be honest, even though I've spent most of this video nitpicking the more nonsensical elements of Galaxy Express, I actually quite enjoyed this movie. As I mentioned before, the animation is dated, but still pretty to look at. And although the story doesn't make much sense, there are still some fairly interesting ideas presented throughout the narrative that kept me engaged and curious to see what would happen next. It's clear that there is a kernel of a decent story here, and one thing you can definitely say about this anime is that you'll never be bored watching it. But let's get back to the original question I posed at the beginning of this video. Is Galaxy Express 999 more confusing than Armitage III? Well, in my opinion, no. Even though there were dozens of baffling decisions made in the creation of this film, I was still able to basically follow the plot and have some idea of what was going on in every scene. I may not have understood why a lot of things were happening during this movie's runtime, but I could generally tell what was going on. While watching Armitage III, on the other hand, I was rarely able to understand what was happening at any given point, and often had no idea who central characters were, or why key events were unfolding during the film's runtime. But as always, these are just my opinions. What do you guys think? Have you seen Galaxy Express 999? What did you think of it? I'd love to know your opinions in the comments. Until then, see you next time.